The twin sun sat high over the cliffside trading post, burning white on steel rails and water pipes. Heat shimmered above the livestock pens, turning the air into a wavering haze. Dust, sweat, the sharp, sour tang of animals kept too long in cramped stalls. Rian Vale moved through the crowd with his head down and his tools clipped neat to his belt. He was here to inspect pressure gauges for the upper ridge water main. 2 valves, 1 junction. In, out, done. No trouble. No crowd. He hated crowds. Stall speakers blared offers. Vendors shouted over one another. Hollow signs flickered in bright colors, promising discounts on fodder, filters, fuel. Rian tuned it out and checked his slate. One more turn past the cattle lanes, and he'd be at the first valve. Buy 1 grav-cow, get a bonded alien worker for free. The shout blasted over the ambient noise. Voices dipped. Heads turned. Someone laughed. Someone else lifted a compad to record. Rian stopped walking. The words hit like a slap. His jaw clenched. He turned his head toward the sound, because walking away would sit in his chest all day like a stone. At the center of the lane, a broad-shouldered farmer stood on an overturned crate. His skin was wind-burned bronze, his hat old and sweat-stained. A hand-painted board hung from the rail beside him. Grav-cow sale, free laborer included. The bonus stood on a platform next to him. She was tall for her species, long legs dusty from travel. Her skin was a deep violet, patterned with faint silver markings along her neck and forearms. Her dark blue hair had once been braided with care, now frayed, strands sticking to her cheeks in the heat. A metal band circled each of her wrists. Decorative, someone might say. Rian saw the locking seams. A thin chain climbed from the bands to the stall post, just tight enough to be humiliating. She stared straight ahead. Chin lifted, eyes fixed on some distant point above the crowd. Her jaw was tight. Her fingers flexed once around the chain. Not panicked. Angry. The farmer grinned at the gathering ring of onlookers. Look at this deal. Strong grav-cow, premium milk yield, and a worker who doesn't argue. You can put her on the pens, on the fields, on whatever you want. Scattered chuckles. A few uneasy faces. More compads lifted to record. Heat moved through Rian's chest, sharp and focused. He'd seen this posture before. People on rooftops above floodwater. People in evac corridors when someone tried to make a joke out of their fear. Shoulders stiff. Eyes empty. A choice always came with that posture. Look away. Or step in. He stepped in. Rian slid through the crowd until the stall's weak shade brushed his face. The farmer spotted him and his grin widened. You look like you've got credits, friend. Need stock? I got 3 grav-cows left and a worker who comes free. Rian ignored him for a moment and checked the animals. Good posture, steady hooves, clear eyes. The largest, a gray beast with a faint white stripe and a scarred flank, met his gaze with a calm, heavy-lidded look. Strong. Hardy. Worth real money. Then he looked at the woman. Her eyes flicked to him, quick and sharp, then away again. She tightened her grip on the chain. Rian spoke in a level tone. She's not stock. The farmer shrugged. She's not human either. Off-world drifter. Owes more than she can pay. Council doesn't care what I do with her. Might as well sweeten the sale. The crowd murmured. Some smirked. Some looked down. No one moved. Rian's hand settled on the tool at his belt. Not a weapon. A standard Ridgeworks technician key. His thumb brushed the worn metal, grounding himself. How much for the big gray grav-cow, he asked. The farmer blinked. Greed kicked in fast. Full market price. She's my best. I'll pay it, Rian said, already pulling his chip from his pocket. Write the sale. The clerk at the stall terminal straightened with interest. Rian handed over his payment chip without flinching. The reader chimed. Transaction accepted. The farmer laughed, loud and triumphant. That's what I like. Fast decisions. And that means the promotion applies. He swung the chain lightly, making the woman's wrists jolt. Cow plus worker. One deal. No returns. The woman's eyes sharpened. Panic flickered under the anger. Rian shifted one step closer to the clerk's terminal. His voice dropped just enough that the nearest few could hear. Add the promotion clause, he said. Then open contractual overlays. I'm invoking sentient transfer law, Article 9. The clerk hesitated. That's old code. Still live, Rian replied. Sentient beings can't be transferred as part of property sale without signed consent and a registered contract. Bind her to the cow, and the entire sale voids. A ripple went through the front of the crowd. Someone whispered, "That true?" Someone else pulled up legal text on their wrist console. The clerk swallowed. His fingers moved on the screen. He found the clause. It sat there, dusty and rarely touched, but active. "That law only applies to citizens," the farmer snapped. Rian didn't look at him. "It applies to any registered sapient on this ridge. Check the header." The clerk's eyes darted to the top line. His thumb hovered, then pressed confirm. The terminal chimed again, louder this time. "Property transfer, valid. Person transfer, blocked. Consent required." The farmer's grin died. The chain at the woman's wrist shook as she breathed once, sharp. Hope and fear collided in her face. Rian finally turned to her. He kept his voice low and clear. "You're not listed as property anymore. If you want down, you remove the chain. Not me." The stall went silent. She searched his face for mockery, for the trap she expected. She found none. No pity. No ownership. Just a man whose pulse stayed steady even under 100 watching eyes. Her fingers moved. The small latch on the chain band clicked open. She slid the metal from her wrists and let it drop to the platform. The sound of it hitting would crack through the stall louder than any shout. The crowd shifted. A few looked away, suddenly ashamed of the recording tabs in their hands. The farmer snarled, "You think you're some kind of hero? You just cost me a worker." She's still standing on my platform. Something small and hard flew from behind the rail. A loop of thin cord. It whipped toward her arm. Rian moved without thinking. He caught the cord mid-air, twisted, and yanked it aside before it tightened around her. The grav-cow startled, hooves clattering. A feed cart toppled, sacks spilling across the dirt. "Move," he said to her, voice low, urgent. "Stay beside me, not behind me." She stepped off the platform. Bare feet hit packed earth. Her knees almost buckled, but she forced them straight and matched his stride. The crowd broke around them as Rian cut a path through the lane. Some cursed. Some stared. No one stopped them. Behind them, the hand-painted sign swung on its hook, creaking in the hot wind. They slipped into the side alleys of the trading post. The noise of the main lane faded, replaced by the clank of pipes and the hiss of vents. Here, the smells were different. Metal, oil, cooling fans. Rian kept half a step ahead, not leading her by the hand, but making sure no one boxed her in. He took the maintenance path he knew best, narrow, but with multiple exits. Her breathing stayed fast but controlled. She didn't cling. She didn't speak. At the end of the alley, a misting station sprayed fine, cold vapor into the air. It cooled the sweat on her skin, made her shiver. She pressed her back to the wall for a second, instinctively scanning for pursuers. No one followed. Rian checked her wrists. Red marks. No bleeding. He looked away quickly. No point in making her feel studied. "Any injuries?" he asked. "Only my pride," she said, voice rough but steady. "And that was already damaged." He nodded once. "Honest answer." "My name is Rian," he said. "Water systems tech. I was supposed to be checking valves, not arguing law in a livestock lane." She eyed his tool belt, the slate on his hip, the neat way everything sat in its place. It matched his story. "I'm Sira," she said after a pause. "From the outer Gray's belts. Or I was. Before everything went wrong." He didn't push for details. "Do you have anywhere safe to go?" Silence. Her jaw flexed. "I had a plan. Find seasonal work. Send credits home." Then the farmer saw a stray off-worlder desperate enough to take any job. "I thought he meant real work until he locked the bands." She looked away, ashamed of being fooled. Rian recognized the look. He'd seen it on flood survivors who had trusted the wrong voice. "I know a lodging house that doesn't tolerate harassment," he said. "You can stay there a few nights. No chains. No promotions. After that, it's your choice where you go." She narrowed her eyes. "And what do you get out of this?" "Better sleep," he said. "And the knowledge that I didn't leave someone standing on a crate." No speech. No noble pose. Just a flat answer. Distrust still coiled in her, but fear of the farmer's stall coiled tighter. "If you try to trick me," Sira said calmly, "I won't freeze like I did up there. I'll fight." "Good," Rian replied. "Keep that ready." He led her toward the canal tram at the lower dock. The canal tram rocked gently as it moved along the water spine, cutting through the ridge. Crates of milk cans clinked beside them. The late light painted everything in sharp gold. Sira sat by the window, back straight, hands folded to hide the faint circles on her wrists. A pair of teens across the aisle kept glancing at her violet skin and silver markings. She angled her body to block their view of her arms. "They're staring because you look like you walked through a dust storm and then into a coolant shower," Rian said quietly. "You stand out. That's all." She exhaled. The blunt truth landed better than soft comfort. At the next dock, the scent of grilled meat drifted through the open doors. Rian stepped off long enough to buy 2 cheap meals and 2 bitter coffees. He handed her one without fanfare. "I can pay for myself," she said. "Not yet," he replied. "Later, when you're standing on your own. For now, eat so you don't fall over." She hated that she needed it. But hunger won. Her hands shook as she lifted the food. She hid it by keeping her eyes on the water. "I came here for herd work," Syrah said between bites. "My family lost our grazing rights. My father argued with the board, lost his temper. They stripped everything. I thought if I earned enough off-world, I could send it back. Fix it." "You didn't start that fight?" Rian asked. "No. Then you're not the one who broke it." The simplicity of the statement hit harder than any long explanation. She stared at the canal until the tight knot in her chest loosened half a notch. They disembarked at a quiet terrace, far from the main bazaar. Lanterns hung from lines overhead. The sign on the nearest building read, "Wayhouse RIN, rooms, meals, laundry." Inside, the air smelled of stew, soap, and boiled coffee. A solid woman with streaked gray hair looked up from wiping a table. "Back already, Vale?" she asked. "Valve leak." "No leak," Rian said. "Need a room for her. 3 nights, if you've got it. No questions asked. Normal rate." The woman's gaze moved over Syrah. Not judging. Assessing. "You look like hell," she said matter-of-factly. "We've got 1 room open. Door locks from the inside. Meals at 7 and 9. If anyone bothers you here, they leave. Fast." Syrah's shoulders loosened. Just a fraction. Safety smelled like stew and hot soap and someone who treated guests like people, not problems. Rian paid without making a show of it. "I'll pay you back," Syrah said quietly as the keeper handed her a worn key with a carved tag. "You don't owe me," Rian said. "But if paying makes you sleep better, do it when you're not deciding between food and rent." She stared at him, trying to find the angle. There didn't seem to be one. Upstairs, the room was small. Single bed, clean quilt, basin, a small window looking out over the ridge. Syrah set her hand on the cool wall. Calm spread through her muscles for the first time in days. Rian stopped at the threshold. He didn't step inside. "You're safe here tonight," he said. "If you want work leads, I'll be at the water office by mid-morning. You can come by or not. Your decision." She studied his face. "Did you know that law would work back at the stall? Or were you guessing?" "I know the code," he said. "If it failed, I had a backup plan." "What plan?" "Buy the cow. Walk away. Come back when the crowd lost interest and walk you out the back." She blinked. That kind of contingency for a stranger unsettled her. "You think too far ahead," she said. "Floods rise fast," he replied. "Thinking ahead keeps people alive." "Good night, Rian." "Good night, Syrah." He left. She closed the door. For the first time since she'd stepped onto the ridge, she slid a lock closed from the inside, and no one stood on the other side holding a key. Sleep found her fast. Morning light slanted through the window. Syrah woke with a sharp inhale, expecting jeers, commands, the cold bite of metal on her wrists. Silence. She listened. Distant clatter of dishes. Low voices. No shouting. No chains. Relief hit like a wave. Her muscles unclenched. Downstairs, the keeper set a plate in front of her. Fried slices of ridge meat, spiced grain, and a boiled egg. Simple. Hot. Real. "You sleep?" the woman asked. "Yes," Syrah said. "Thank you." "Good," the keeper said. "Eat. You've got the look of someone who'll try to run on empty." Syrah ate in controlled, hungry bites, then stepped out into the cool terrace air. She could turn away from the water office. Walk another road. Pretend yesterday never happened. But she needed work. And she needed to close the loop with the man who'd stepped into her nightmare and then refused to own it. The water office perched above a set of stone steps. Pipes ran along its side, humming softly. Rian stood outside with 2 techs, studying a glowing pressure map. In daylight, he looked different. Not like a sudden rescuer. Like a man who'd been doing hard, precise work for a long time. Rope scars and faint old burns marked his forearms. He saw her and stepped away from his crew. "You look rested," he said. "The place worked out." It did. Her voice was steadier today. I need work. Something with real pay and no chains. Know any options? I know 3, he said, already moving down the steps. Walk with me. They passed butcher stalls, pipe sellers, and a feed shop. The air smelled of meat and machinery. First, Rian said, a calf-raising yard on the lower terrace. Tough work. Fair wages. The calves can break your nose if you're careless. I can handle animals, she said. I grew up in grazed belts. Second, a grain drying facility. Loud, repetitive, steady hours. Less heavy lifting, more standing. She considered both. Both meant starting at the bottom, earning every credit. And the third, she asked. My team needs field assistance some days, he said. Checking line flow, hauling gear, logging readings. It's paid, but it puts you near me, and I don't want that to feel like a leash. The blunt honesty knocked some of her defenses sideways. I don't want to look like someone you rescued and then kept, Syrah said. I don't want that either, he answered. They reached the calf yard gate. The foreman, a thick-set woman with sun-aged skin, looked Syrah up and down. Looking for work? She asked. Yes, Syrah said. I know her behavior. I don't scare easy. I'll take whatever trial you offer. The foreman's gaze flicked to the faint marks on Syrah's wrists, then to the way she held herself, straight, but not arrogant. Half-day trial tomorrow, the foreman said. You keep up, you stay. I'll be here, Syrah replied. As they walked back toward the main path, Rian stayed a step behind this time, letting her walk in front. You handled that yourself, he said. I needed to, she replied. Good, he said simply. Dawn came pale and cold. Syrah reached the calf yard with her sleeves rolled and her hair braided tight. The foreman, Taryn, handed her gloves. Feed first, then stalls. Watch your back when you turn. Calves bump. Syrah stepped into the work. Buckets, hay bales, water troughs. A young grav calf paced nervously in its pen. She approached slow, bucket steady, voice low. The calf sniffed her hand, then drank. The familiar rhythm of animal care eased something inside her. Later, Taryn handed her a lead rope. Take Brack out, she said, nodding to a restless gray calf. He'll test you. Don't yank. Don't let him drag you. Brack lunged once, hooves scraping. Syrah shifted her weight, feet planted. She let the pull slide through her body instead of fighting it with stiff arms. The calf steadied. Let her brush its neck. Warm fur. Soft breath. From the fence, Taryn gave one sharp nod. Approval. By midday, Syrah's back ached. Sweat soaked her collar. Dust streaked her legs. It felt good. Honest. During break, she ate porridge and meat with the other workers. They talked about weather sensors, feed prices, and a stubborn bull that refused to leave the road last week. No one asked about chains or stalls. One younger worker finally ventured. Heard your family lost their grazing rights. People say your name brought trouble. Syrah's spine stiffened. My father fought the board and refused to back down, she said. He lost everything. I didn't start that fight, and I won't repeat it. Taryn, hearing, cut in. What matters here is if you show up and work. Stories don't muck stalls. The subject dropped. At shift's end, Taryn handed Syrah a small paper envelope. Half-day pay, she said. If you're here at sunrise tomorrow, we'll keep going. The envelope felt heavier than its actual contents. Syrah slipped it into a cloth pouch and tied it shut. Her pay. Earned. Not gifted. Not bait. On her way back, she almost bumped into Rian carrying a coil of line and a tool crate. You survived, he said. I did more than survive, she answered, a hint of pride in her voice. They gave me a spot. Good, he said. Work tired suits you better than fear tired. Her stomach growled loud enough to be heard. He huffed a quiet breath and bought 2 meat skewers from a nearby stall, handing her one. This time I pay you back, she said, fishing out a coin. He accepted it without argument. That, more than anything, made her feel like an equal. By the 4th morning, Syrah woke with pain like a metal band across her lower back. She gritted her teeth, got dressed, and went anyway. Taryn watched her walk in. You're stiff, she said. Push too hard, and you'll be out all week. Pace yourself. Syrah bristled. I can work. Not if your back folds, Taryn said. Start with lighter tasks. If I say stop, you stop. Staying on the job isn't about pride. It's about lasting. The words stung. But Syrah listened. She did feed rounds, light brushing, fewer heavy bales. By noon, she bent to lift a bucket and her back seized. Pain spiked. Her hand shot to the fence rail. "You're done for the day," Taryn said behind her. "I can finish," Syrah started. "You can fall on your face," Taryn cut in. "Go. Eat. Stretch. Come back tomorrow, or don't come back at all." Humiliation burned hot, then cooled into reluctant acceptance. Syrah left the yard early. She wandered to the canal edge and sat on the low wall, watching barges drift by. Her thoughts spiraled. If one bad day breaks me, what am I even building? A shadow fell over her. Rian sat down beside her without touching. He set a small container between them. Steam rose from inside. "Broth and meat." "You're off early," he said. "That or the sun slowed down." "I pushed too hard," she admitted. "Feels like failure." "Feels like adjustment," he corrected. "When I trained new techs, the ones who ignored their bodies were gone in a week. The ones who made it learned when to pull back." She sipped the broth. Warmth spread through her chest and belly. Her back still hurt, but less. He watched her posture, then said, "Come on. I'll show you something. If you try to drag me into another fight." "It's just a stretch," he said. "No crowd. No laws." He led her to a quiet strip of grass along the ridge with a sturdy rail. He dropped his kneeling mat and tapped it. "Knees here. Hands on the rail. Breathe out when you lean forward. Not too far. Stop when the pain changes from sharp to dull." She hesitated. This kind of instruction, gentle and precise, was new, but her back throbbed. She knelt. He corrected her angle by lightly touching her elbow, then moved his hand away. The stretch bit at first. Then the muscles eased. Her exhale turned from ragged to slow. "That helps," she said, surprised. "Do it again tonight and tomorrow morning," he said. "Don't pretend you don't need it." She straightened, feeling the difference. "I'm not used to someone guiding me without trying to steer my entire life," she said. "I'm not here to decide for you," Rian replied. "Just to put guardrails where the fall is steep." At the wayhouse door, he paused. "I'll stay out of your way tomorrow," he said. "Unless you come to the office by choice." The word choice mattered. She nodded. "We'll see." The next morning, Syrah woke later than usual. Her back ached, but less. The stretch had worked. She took a slower breakfast, then walked, not to the yard, but to the water office. Rian stood outside, conferring with a junior tech. He looked up as she approached, eyes flicking quickly over her posture. He relaxed a little when he saw she wasn't in pain. "You decided?" he said. "I'm working the yard this afternoon," she replied. "Giving my back half a day? Olmi would have pushed. Numi wants to last." Approval lit his expression, small but real. "Smart." She pulled the cloth pouch from her pocket and turned it in her hand. "This stays with me," she said. "I'm not paying you back yet." "Good," he said immediately. "That's your buffer. When you've got enough to stand steady, then you pay if you still need to." She glanced at him. "You're really not going to argue?" "I don't want you crashing just to clear a number in your head," he said. "You're building something. Let it stand before you start tearing bits off." She nodded. For once, the idea of not repaying immediately didn't feel like debt. It felt like strategy. At the yard, Taryn put her on light duty, then ramped her up again the next day. Slowly, the ache turned from warning to simple muscle fatigue. The calves learned her voice. Workers started talking to her like she'd always been there. On the 7th evening, Taryn pressed a thicker envelope into her hand. "Full week's pay," she said. "You earned it. If you keep this up, in a month I'll trust you with training pins and new hires." Syrah held the envelope. Her fingers trembled just slightly. "Thank you," she said. The walk back to the ridge overlook felt different now. Her steps had weight. Purpose. The wayhouse lanterns glowed warm ahead, but she turned toward the water channels instead. Rian was already there, leaning on the wall, looking out over the lit terraces. 2 wrapped meals sat beside him. "I'm paying for mine," she said before he could speak. "Good," he said, sending a payment request to her band. "Then we're just sharing food, not debts." They sat, unwrapped grilled meat and flatbread, ate in companionable silence for a while, watching work lights blink along the ridge. "Once you're steady," he asked, "what do you want?" "Not just not chained." "What then?" She looked at her hands. "Calloused again. Stronger. I want my own small herd one day," she said. "Nothing big. Just enough that my name means something for my work, not my father's mistakes. Maybe not here. Maybe on some cheaper world." "That's doable," he said. "Small start. Honest growth." She studied his profile. The scars. The tired eyes that never seemed to stop scanning. "And you?" she asked. You plan on checking valves until your joints give out? He huffed a quiet half-laugh. Someone has to keep the ridge from bursting pipes every hot season. But maybe I'll train more people. Ones who don't walk past stalls like the one we saw. The thought sat between them. A future where that kind of promotion didn't happen because too many people knew the law and gave a damn. She took a breath. Rian, she said, I don't want you to feel responsible for me. But I also don't want to pretend you weren't the hand that pulled me off that crate. I'm not responsible for your life, he said. You are. I just refuse to leave you where someone tried to turn you into a joke. Her shoulders eased. Then let's do this, she said. You stop checking on me like I might fall. Instead, we just share the path when it makes sense. I'll invite you to dinner when I can pay for both plates and not flinch. He looked at her, and for the first time, there was no hint of wary assessment in his gaze. Just respect. I'll look forward to it, he said. They finished eating. At the Wayhouse door, she paused and turned back. One more thing, she said. That farmer you cost a free worker? One day, I want to walk past his stall again with my own herd contract and not even look at him. Just let him see that his bonus item built a life without his name on it. Rian's mouth twitched. I hope I'm there to see his face. You can be, she said, if you're still walking this ridge. She went inside. In her room, she opened the pay envelopes and counted the credits. Enough for rent, food, and a little left over. She tucked some aside in a hidden seam in her bag. For the first time since losing her family's land, she didn't fall asleep thinking about escape or survival. She fell asleep planning where to expand. Outside, the ridge lights hummed. Somewhere in the distance, a farmer who'd once shouted about free workers stared at his empty crate and wondered when the crowd stopped laughing. On a higher terrace, a human who hated crowds and an alien woman who refused to bow were quietly, stubbornly building futures that didn't ask permission. HFY.